football, the red zone is where a team has to make small adjustments to ensure victory. As you approach retirement, you also need to make small adjustments to ensure success. This is the Red Zone Retirement Program with registered investment advisor and enrolled agent John Mears of Mears Money Management.
It's time for Red Zone Retirement Program, Simple Investing, Smart Future with Coach John Mears and myself. Coach, I'm on location today. I'm in a different spot for a change. But we're going to talk about Dave Ramsey again today. Old Dave. We love the financial folks love to talk about Dave. He's got some good stuff. He's got some not so good stuff. And we're going to chat about that today a little bit. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's summertime as we're recording this here in Southern California. It'll be a nice, cool 104 degrees here today, but that's why we have air conditioning, which they apparently don't have in Europe, but we do have here, and we're fine and we're comfortable in here today. But yeah, I love the Dave Ramsey. I always tell people, Dave Ramsey giveth and Dave Ramsey taketh away. So there's some great stuff he talks about. We're going to talk about some other things he discusses today. So it'll be a really good show. And I think people will find this very interesting because everybody's heard of Dave Ramsey. Everybody knows what he talks about. So it'll be good.
And if you're of a certain age, I whenever you said it's going to be a really good show, I was not that I'm of necessarily that age, but I do remember it a little bit. I was immediately hearing Ed Sullivan. It's a really great show. We got a really big show today. So a little bit, just a scooch before my time, but still.
But the Beatles were not going to be performing.
The Beatles
here,
will
though,
not
today,
be here.
So.
That's right. And if they would, it might be never mind. All right. So
it'd be interesting.
It may be scary. It'd be ghosts. I guess it'd be AI holograms now, right?
You could do that. Yeah.
So all right. So the big topic that we're talking about, by the way, Coach, here is the 4% rule versus Dave's 8% conversation. Okay. So, the 4% rule, we've talked about that many times. The guy who created it back in the 90s probably wasn't expecting it to become like the golden thumb rule. But he's even adjusted that to 4.7, which is still a far cry from Dave's 8. So talk to me about the 8. What's your thought process about Dave saying, because here's the thing. He basically says, look, if the market pretty much returns 10% year over year, you're good to take out 8, right? The caveat is that you got to be 100% in that, right? So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so the math is so simplistic that it's surprising that somebody like Dave, who I really think he does a good job helping people with the budgeting and the basics and that sort of thing. But the idea that just because somebody's earning 10%, that you can take out 8% per year. And the idea is that the S&P has returned 10%, and you're kind of looking, like you said, you're looking at only the S&P 500. There's a couple things that I would challenge this thought process on, and that is that 10% is not linear. It doesn't go up 10% every year. And secondly, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. We like to be a little bit more diversified, which smooths out your returns over time as well. So that was just the things that just kind of pop up in here, is that he has oversimplified this that far. And he has actually had some of his own staff has challenged him on this, and some of you may have seen some of that stuff out there. He defends it. He's a good speaker. He really is, and he's charismatic. So people listen to it. They kind of go, "Hey, that makes sense." But it's probably not.
Let me play devil's advocate for you here. Okay, so in support of people who are maybe watching and going, well, wait a minute now. So like I can pull this up real fast. So check this out, Coach. I'm going to let you guess at this. Don't look, and you may know, you may have a good idea, but don't look. Over the last 5 years, talking the S&P 500, how much do you think the S&P 500 is up cumulatively over the last 5 years?
Over the last 5 years, I actually don't know that off the top of my head, but it's got to be in the upper teens right now. I'm assuming.
You want to rephrase? You want to guess again? It's way 5 years. Cumulatively up. You're way low.
I'm way low. So it's in the 20s then.
75%.
Oh, cumulatively. I'm sorry. I'm going per year. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. It's like I said it twice just to make sure.
Yes. Yes. So if we're looking at over 5 years, I would have guessed around 15 to 20%. 15 times 5 would be around 75% in that range.
So somebody pulls that up, and by the way, the Dow, just for comparison, is at about 50% over that same period. So somebody pulls that up and goes, well, why the hell can't I take 8%? Right? because that, seems totally plausible. But again, first of all, I guess the big argument, you tell me, coach, but when somebody comes in and maybe they come in and they say, hey, listen, I'm sitting down with you. I want to go through this. I want to build a plan. I want to take 8%. To me, that first pushback's got to be, do you want to have that much at risk? Like, do you feel is that the first place you would start? Or do you just say, do you even need 8%?
So yeah, I always tell we back into the portfolio after we figure out everything else. So we do figure out what is your need in retirement, and there are usually other sources of income with most people that I deal with. Not everybody, but most people. So we kind of find out: do you have a pension? Do we have Social Security? Most people do. Do you have savings? Some people do. They may have, again, multiple. They have a spouse. The spouse may have other sources of income. And then at some point we find out, okay, what are our guaranteed, if you will put that in air quotes, but our guaranteed income, which would be Social Security and some sort of pension. And then again, beyond that, what are our needs beyond that will meet our monthly budgetary needs. So sometimes that shrinks down a lot. It doesn't always. And so we kind of figure out, okay, what are our needs? And then what do we need to achieve that based on our overall portfolio? So if you have $1 million, you need to take out, say, $8,000 a month. We may have a problem. If you have $1 million and you only need $3,000 a month, then we're probably okay. So we kind of look at this from that standpoint, kind of back ourselves into it. So if we need more, we actually may have to be more aggressive, whether we like it or not. Okay. But I always tell people, I use guardrails. I don't use the 4% rule. I use the dynamic distribution method, which is a little bit higher than even Bergen has gotten to, where he's going at 4.7%. Still a far cry from Dave Ramsey. The issue that I have with Dave Ramsey, or anybody that is taking just out a flat number, even 4% a year, if you will, but taking out a flat number, is what is your strategy when markets go down? What is your strategy? What are you going to make an adjustment or not? So that's the first thing I'm going to ask is what is your strategy when markets go down? Also, what is your strategy when markets go up? And so I want to know what that is. And I always tell people that waiting it out is not a strategy. That is not a strategy. Okay. So we look at the overall picture, and then we look at the academic research, and the research does kind of guide us. And we don't live off of everything with research, but if you're going to make an intelligent, informed decision, you're going to look at what have other people figured out already. Yeah. Dave Ramsey does not go through that. He does not have academic literature that's going to back him up. He has tried to combine the 8% with he talks about annuities and other things that you can use for that, but that's a whole different topic than just saying, hey, 8% out of the stock market every year. I just don't think it holds up over time, because what if the market goes down like it did in 2007, 2008, 2009, went down 40, 50%, depending on your portfolio mix, or even in 2022. When the market went down because of the bond crash.
And what you're talking about here, Coach, for a lot of people is sequence of return risk, right? So, you can take, and you can pull this up on the internet, folks. You can go check this out if you want to. You can take person A and person B, give them the exact same starting amount of money, give them the exact same kind of set of numbers. And in 5 years into retirement, if the market is good versus 5 years into retirement, if the market is bad, it's drastically different because you're really getting triple hammered. Depending on how your stuff is set up, right, Coach? Because if you're pulling money out, you've got the tax situation, if it's in a 401k or a traditional IRA. So you're dealing with that. And then you're dealing with the down, like a market being down. So therefore, that $1 million, let's say for easy math, if you're doing 4%, it's $400,000. Well, now it's not 40 grand. Now it's not that, right? Because the market's down. So that's a whole ball of wax that I think a lot of people, especially DIYers, just don't understand.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and I think that there are advisors that don't get this. So I could definitely see where DIYers may feel a little bit overwhelmed by this sometimes. The idea that I always tell people that you can actually, this kind of blows people's minds, but I can actually show them mathematically, is you can actually have a higher rate of return and run out of money sooner than somebody that has a lower rate of return, because there's the issue comes down to volatility. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to volatility, and do you have a methodology that accounts for volatility? So I always tell people, when you're retiring, there's two things you don't know, and these are two variables. One is you don't know how long you're going to be in retirement, don't know when you're going to die, and secondly, you don't know what the markets are going to do. Yet your distribution method has to account for these two massive variables. It has to. So you have to account for those, and that comes down to volatility. And so I always tell people that the certainty, as much as we can never be certain of any returns, but we want to try and lower our volatility so that we have as certain as we can a certain idea about where our returns are going to be in. So if we reduce the volatility, we may actually have a lower return than maybe your uncle or your cousin, but we're going to be more certain where we're going to be in the long run over the next 30 years so that we can predict, again, as well as we can, what our distribution should be. And then we can account for that depending on what the markets do. If the markets go down a little bit, we can adjust our distribution slightly. And the typical person, it's only a couple $100s a month, but that couple $100s a month that you may adjust makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And so somebody that may take out $4,000 a month, if the market goes down, the actual number is around 16%. If it goes down, if your portfolio drops that much, we simply tighten our belt from $4,000 to say $3,700 a month. And when I explain that to people, they go, that's all I got to do? That's all you got to do. But you have to have that in writing. You have to know what that number is. And so that's why it's so important to know what your volatility is. Dave Ramsey makes no account for volatility in his 8% rule. He just says, you can take it out because the math is you're making 10%, you can take it out 8%.
I mean,
there's no accounting for volatility.
Fundamentally, that's correct. But it doesn't take into account all these other minutiae. And it doesn't take into account how you feel about it at night when you go to sleep either, right? And that's a huge piece of that. Or the person sitting next to you, right? Because often, coach, sometimes, right, one person's like, yeah, I'm down with this. Let's roll. Let's do the 8. And the other person's like, whoa, wait a minute, And
Yes.
often, like it or not, stereotypes or whatever you want to call it, the fellas are a little bit sometimes more open to being aggressive, and we also die first. So it's like, talk to your partner.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just had that talk just this morning before we're recording this with a client about that exact same thing, about where at some point, we've talked about this in other podcasts, retirees, one person's going to be single at some point. So you kind of have to account for that, I think, in your portfolio. So even though a man, if you're going to use that as an example, may be more aggressive, the husband may be more aggressive, and the wife or the spouse may not be as aggressive. I think there's a reason why you may have a little bit of middle ground, why you both may want to give in a little bit with the other spouse so that you're both comfortable with the portfolio in case the other person leaves us. So that is something that's pretty important here. But again, I back into that, and I have a number that at some point, I won't say they have to use, but they kind of do. This is the number you have to make sure you never run out of money in your lifetime. And that accounts for the volatility that exists within your portfolio. I always ask people, especially the DIYers, because we can calculate this, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. What is the volatility? What is the volatility in your portfolio? What that means, it's a fancy word for how much is the expected area of returns going to be. So if you're going to get 10% on your portfolio, we'll use Dave Ramsey's example, and the volatility on the S&P is, say, 15%. That range means you can be on a normal year anywhere as high as 25% and down 5%, 2/3 of the time. That's what the volatility is, a standard deviation, the one standard deviation, and the second standard deviation gets you a little bit further, but that also doubles that. And that's that once in a lifetime or once in a generation event, which did occur for us back in 2007, 8, and 9. So those are numbers that can be calculated. Those are numbers you should know, and other advisors often don't know it. Most DIYers don't even know what I'm talking about. They look like I have two heads when I bring this up, but you have to know that number.
Yeah,
you have to know that number because you need to know what your range is going to be so you can have some sort of certainty so you can predict the future. And again, Dave Ramsey skips the volatility issue, the standard deviation issue altogether.
Well, look, he's built his empire. He's got a great empire and a great business going in a lot of ways.
Great stuff on budgeting.
On the budgeting and the debt.
He does great stuff on that.
But he's not with, but also controversy creates, viewpoints and eyeballs and all that kind of stuff too. So certainly no stranger there. So thanks for breaking some of this down, Coach, and just kind of talking with us and with me through it a little bit, trying to play devil's advocate, throwing some of that stuff out there. It's easy to do the back of the napkin thing with rules of thumb. And maybe that gets you to a talking point, but you really got to dissect it specifically individual to individual whenever it comes down to it. Right.
Yes. Yeah, I love talking about this stuff. It gets me, I start talking like a coach. I start getting all sweaty. I start talking loud. Spit starts coming out of my mouth. I start getting really into it at that point. But I love talking about this stuff because it's so important to the longevity of your portfolio and for you to make sure you never run out of money, which is ultimately.
As long as you don't make me hit the climbing rope when I come into your office for a review, I'm all right. Or I could live with the up downs, but I don't think I could do the climbing rope anymore. So. All right, my friend. Well, thanks for breaking it down. As always, if you got questions, need some help, whether it's 4%, whether it's 8%, whether it's whatever your number you need to drive your plan, because that's the key too. Don't go chasing big returns when a smaller number gets it done. especially if it takes some of that risk off the table and helps you sleep a little bit better at night. So it's all about having a customized strategy and plan. And if you need coach's help, just reach out to him. We got links down below. We got all sorts of good stuff. You can go to bookachatwithjohn.net. You can go to mearsmoney.com. You don't have to remember all that. Just click on the links in the show descriptions, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or of course right here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to us on whatever platform you enjoy using. Do that subscribe button, and that way you catch new content when it comes out. But definitely, before you take any action, talk with a qualified professional in your area. John's here in California, but he helps people all over the country as well. So if you got some questions, need some help, reach out to him today. Coach, thanks for breaking it down, buddy.
You're welcome. It's a lot of fun.
I always appreciate it, my friend. And we'll have some books here to talk about. If you want to pick up a copy of that, we'll show you this as well. And we'll jump out of here. This is Red Zone Retirement Program, Simple Investing, Smart Future with Coach John Mears.
John has a couple of free books, Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California, that reveal exactly how you can experience zero taxes in retirement and overcome the IRS lien on your 401k, IRA, and 403b, which could threaten your future lifestyle. These are complimentary, so all you have to do to pick these up 100% free is just stop by rescuemyretirement.net. That's rescuemyretirement.net. Fill in the basic info and he'll ship those out to you immediately. That's rescuemyretirement.net for a copy of Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California.
Advisory services offered through Mears Money Management, Inc., an RIA registered in the states of California and Texas. California Department of Insurance License number 0685203.